Everybody is still trickling back in. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick introduction of our next keynote presenter. So Ms. LaTonya Matheney is a native of Crossett, Arkansas. She is a current resident of Conway, Arkansas. She is employed by Shorter College, where she is the academic administrator for a federal initiative known as the Second Chance Pell Program. Her educational pursuits include a Bachelor of Science in Sociology and a Master of Science in College Student Personnel and Administration, both from the University of Central Arkansas. In addition, LaTonya received her graduate certificate in the summer of 2014 in conflict mediation from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. This Crossett native believes heavily in the power of education, holistic development, and servitude. Some of her service efforts, past and present, include the Brothers and Big Sisters of Central Arkansas, the Bethlehem House, College Bound, Arkansas, CAPCA, Choosing to Excel, the Diversity Advisory Committee at the University of Central Arkansas, Minority Mentorship at the University of Central Arkansas, and serving as an advisor to the Student Government Association. Additionally, she was a charter member and the president of the UCA Black Alumni Chapter. LaTonya's philosophy is you either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside your story and hustle for your worthiness. It's an honor and a privilege to introduce a good friend of mine. You guys are in for a treat, Ms. LaTonya Matheney.
How is everyone? Hope everyone is well. Thank you so much, Kaylin, for that introduction. I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen and see can we get started, okay? So again, I'm super excited. It's my first time virtually being in Memphis. I've been in Memphis physically before many times, but nonetheless, first time virtually. So super excited to be here to chat with you all today. So again, we're gonna dive right in. Talk like a team, communicate, connect, and cultivate. And what I'm hoping to do is, one, give you some key tips as we talk through what that looks like. What does it mean to talk like a team? What does it mean to communicate, connect, and cultivate? Some of those things are pretty common, but I want to talk about what that looks like as it relates to teamwork. And so we're going to dive right in. Question of the day. And this is something that I hope that that each of you will kind of think through. This is the question that I want you to kind of hinge your hats on, screenshot, share with a friend, tweet, whatever it is. But this is the question of the day. If every student leader were just like me, what kind of campus would U of M be? Kind of nursery rhymish, but it's a question that I really want you to take and to really think about and dwell on as I go through this presentation. Even beyond that, but if every student leader were just like me, what kind of campus would U of M be? If every single person were like, let's see, I see a name here. If every single student were like Abigail Hendricks, if every single student leader, let's find another name. I can't see another name, but either way, we're gonna go with Abigail. If every single student leader were just like me, what kind of campus would this be? And also ask yourself, if everyone in your organization were just like you, what would that look like? So let's set the framework. I want this to be a conversation. Now, essentially, I'm the presenter, but also it's important to me that this thing kind of resonates so we can kind of set the framework, and I want to do that. So as we're setting this framework, think about these things in relation to your organization. So if you're in Active Minds, if you're in SGA, if you are in the Association for Women Attorneys, if you're in Beam, if you're in Tiger Club, whatever you're in, think about this. What does your organization value? It's important to know, and I'm not talking, the bylaws and how, but I'm talking as an organization, think about it. What does your organization value? And the reason that that's important, we'll see, we're going to walk through that, but it's super important to know, because essentially, if you're a part of an organization, but you don't know what they value, we're already off to a rocky start. Would everybody kind of agree with that? How does your executive board, so the next question, so now that we kind of, start with what is your organization value, the next question that I think is super duper important is, how does your exec board express to its members what it values? So again, regardless of the organization that you're a part of, how do you communicate what you value to the members of your organization? So again, whether it's a registered student organization, whether you're Greek, whatever, how do you express to your members? How does your exec board express to the campus community what it values? So it's one thing to say, these are our members. Essentially, the people that are members of your organization, they have an affinity for your organization, right? So you wouldn't join Association for Women Attorneys if you probably weren't an attorney or an aspiring attorney, right? If you're a member of a Greek letter organization, you're a part of that organization because you identify with its values. The others, people who maybe are not members, but outside to the community. So if I'm outside looking in, if I come to, say, for instance, when the world opens up and COVID is no longer a thing, and I come to your campus, and I look and see, oh, well, here's an organization. What is going to be communicated to me based off what I see, based off the signs and the marketing that I see on social media, the signs that I see in the student union or the student center? What is being communicated to the campus community about what your organization values? The next thing, it's one thing to have values in place. It's another thing to assess the effectiveness of your leadership in regards to your values. So it's, are you saying one thing and doing another? Is what your organization saying and what they're doing the same? Because here's the deal. If what you're saying as an organization does not match up with what you're doing as an organization, then perhaps we might be being counterproductive, right? Would anybody agree with that? By virtue of a head nod, yes, no, maybe. Those things matter. And then the last thing is, as we're setting this framework, what do you value? It's equally important to know what the organization's value and then also what you value. Because if what you value personally doesn't align with what's happening in the organization, it's a moot point. Communicate. So I said we're going to talk like a team. We're going to communicate. We're going to connect and cultivate. So let's get to communicate, and we'll stop there. And we'll start here, and then we're going to move on fairly quickly because communicate is not the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about today. What are your values? So I just asked you a bunch of questions. In the previous slide, that was our framework. We're building a house here. And I hope that we can build this house on a pretty stern foundation based on the questions that I ask you. So now that we know what our values are, it's in our minds. We know what SGA essentially, I served as an advisor, part of the advising team for SGA in my days at UCA. And one of the things that we knew very quickly, and that attracted me to their organization was what it valued. And their motto was students first. So everything that SGA at the University of Central Arkansas did had to kind of shape around students first in every endeavor. That's what it valued. And me being there as an advisor, I had to similarly value the same thing, right? So based off our values, who are we communicating with, right? So being on college campus, being a part of organizations, being in student leadership, who are we communicating to? We're communicating to our downline, to the people that work in our organizations. You're communicating to your exec members. You're communicating to the student body, the people that are not maybe a member of your organization, but they see your organization on campus. You're also communicating to executive leadership, the administrators in your college, your presidents, your VPs, everyone who's a dignitary or a designated director, department head. You're communicating something about your organization to those folks as well. What are you communicating? I don't know. It's up to you. But remember, we talked about values. What are you communicating? That's super important. When are you communicating? Where are you communicating? And why do you communicate in the first place? Why is it important for everyone on campus to know what, say, for instance, the Earth Sciences Club? Why is it important for everyone to know on campus what that club, what that organization believes in? It's super important because in order for people to create an affinity for what we've got going on, first they have to know that it matters to them. We've got to connect the dots. A lot of times what I see in student leadership is our organizations matter to us, and I always want to gauge, are we doing a good job of making sure that what we're wanting to accomplish resonates with the outside world, right? It's one thing to be Greek and a part of a Greek letter organization, but if the people outside of your organization don't find the meaning or they don't know, how then do you recruit new members? Because here's the deal, you could move forward with all the people that you have in your organization right now, but in hindsight, the people in your organization, you want to be able to create pockets for people to be a part of as it relates to what you have to offer as an organization, but you also want to build and develop your organization because y'all are going to graduate, right? So when you graduate, who's to continue on your legacy for your organization if you have not done a good job of recruiting and making sure that you've communicated effectively the who's, the what's, the when's, the where's, the why's. 3 V's of communication. Verbally, we communicate, verbal communication. Those are the things that we're literally saying, right? Vocally, you're communicating. It's how you're saying the things verbally. So if every time somebody walks by your student organization or they come to a meeting or you have a general body meeting, what are you communicating? How are you then communicating it? And then visually, what are you communicating? So visually, I'm simply talking about your body language. So if every time I stop by your meeting and you're inviting the whole campus, but we come there and everyone is, if I walk in your meeting and say for instance, I get there, everyone's got on sunglasses or everyone's got on hoodies and they're in their phones. What does that say visually to me about your organization and the energy that meets me there, right? If, say for instance, there's a Greek letter organization and you're having a freshman reception. If everyone that comes to the reception, if the rapport that you build in that space, everyone feels unwelcomed, what does that say about your organization? You say you want new members, you say you want to recruit, you say you want students to come to SGA, but every time they come to the SGA meeting and you have open forum, everyone is rolling their eyes and they're looking at their clock. What does that say? It's important to know, a lot of times people think that communication stops with what you say verbally, but it doesn't. It continues verbally, vocally, visually, right? And I hope some of this I hope all of this is making sense. If it's not, somebody hit me in the chat and let me know so I can stop. But so we're going to connect, we're going to communicate, but we also have to connect. The things that we say have to connect with someone. Let me tell you why. You can communicate all day long, but if no one is listening to the things that you're communicating, then really we're kind of spinning our wheels. I'm sure all of you have seen a hamster in a hamster wheel, spinning the wheels. Or imagine you driving down the highway and say, for instance, you're driving and you get stuck in snow, right? What does that wheel start doing? It's literally moving, but it's going nowhere. I'm sure all of you know people who do a lot, but how effective is it? So you're on the campus of University of Memphis. You've assessed, you know what your values are. You know what you're communicating. Every single person, if there's 52 people in your organization, all 52 of those folks have to know what we're talking about. They have to know why we meet every Tuesday, Thursday. They've got to be in the know. So what they know, how are you then connecting? It's important for your organization to connect to each other, but you've got to connect to the outside. Let me give you an example. So again, I go back to SGA because that's the most current organization that I worked with. So for example, my SGA group, they were wanting to host town halls. So once a quarter, if not twice, they were inviting university leadership to sit down at the table. They would offer an opportunity for student leaders and other students to submit questions for the town hall. And they were inviting students, but nobody was showing up but SGA, right? So we're trying to figure out, well, what's wrong? We're hosting these events. No one is showing up. It's because we had not done a good job of connecting. Because communicating all day to an empty room is a moot point. Communicating but not connecting with other organizations to create the buy-in for your organization, it's a moot point. How do we connect? I'm glad y'all asked me. So in order to communicate and connect, we've got to ignite. Somebody screenshot this, write this down. This is your tweet, your second tweet of the day. We've got to ignite. We've got to identify who our audience is. So again, Earth Science, I go back to, and I did some research. Earth Sciences Club. I'm gonna go with them. Earth Sciences Club. Who is your audience? Naturally, I would imagine it's going to be people that care about the environment. Those are going to be people who are majoring in degree programs that coincide with the earth and sciences. So if I was a member of the Earth Sciences Club and I thought, you know what, guys, there's only 10 of us, we've got to recruit more people. Aha, who do we go recruit? Well, let's go talk to the chair of, I don't know, let's go talk to the chair of the science department. Now we have some buy-in because they care about what we care about. You've got to make it important. It does me no good to introduce to you what I care about if I can't make you see the value in it, right? So whether that's SGA trying to create buy-in for student issues, that's if it's the Association for Women Attorneys, if it's the Beam Club, if it's New Memphis, if it's a Greek letter organization, I've got to make sure that what I believe in and what you believe in, that it matches, right? So identifying your audience and getting them the information that they need. That started 2 slides ago with knowing what your values were, right? So now that I've identified my audience as the Earth Sciences Club, now I need to generate some enthusiasm. If every single time someone comes to your organization's meetings and everyone has an attitude, or everyone's in a poor mood, or everyone is distracted, or there's only 3 people there, that means to me that the energy is not very high. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna whisper it. Everybody is busy. Okay. Everybody agree with that? Everybody's busy. We've all got homework. We've all got other things that we could be doing. But if you sign up for an organization, there is an expectation that you carry out the values that align with that organization. And if every time I come to your meeting and I'm like, everybody in here is in a bad mood, everybody in here is preoccupied with their phones, no one is showing up to these meetings, I'm not going to want to join. And you want to know who's responsible for the energy and generating that enthusiasm for your organization? All 93 of you that are on this Zoom. It's not just the president's responsibility. It's not just, oh, that's an exec board thing. No, if you signed up, it's on you. So it's on Joy, it's on Maggie, who else is name? It's on Andy, it's on Sydney, it's on Savannah, it's on Madison, it's on Bree, it's on every single person on this Zoom. If you are a part of an organization, you have a responsibility. And my thought is, I'm a shoot from the hip kind of girl. If you don't want to carry it out, then you should probably reconsider your membership. You may never invite me back, but I want to say that it's important, y'all. It's important. Enthusiasm is infectious. I should get excited every single time I hear about your organization. That's if it matters to you. If it doesn't matter to you, then that's a different thing. I'm gonna move on. Network. So once I've communicated what matters, I've identified my audience, I've generated this enthusiasm that is super duper infectious. Now I've got to create a network. So you know what? Now that I know what my organization values, I know the people that value what I value. Now I'm going to create a network. So you know what? In my network, now when I have an event, I know who's going to show up, right? An example, if I'm having an event, you want to know what I expect out of the people that are in my network, I expect them to support me. And if they don't, then I've got to question the network. Some people network for a lot of different reasons. Some people network for social clout. Some people network because they just have nothing better to do. Some people network because they see the value. Whatever reason you decide to network, it's super important that you do so. Once you network, then you're able to implement some goals. You've got to infuse your organization's cultures, value, and mantras into the campus community. Everybody at the University of Memphis should know why it's important to be a member of SGA. And if they don't, because you're not igniting anything in them, then that's on you, right? It's on you. I say it again, it's not on the exec board. It's not even on your advisor. It's on you. Your advisor can only do so much. Every single one of you have a responsibility, and you've got to take it seriously. So we're trying to ignite this connection, right? We've done all the talking. We're on social media. We're posted up in the student center on table days, handing out pamphlets and information. And we've got cool programs that are socially distant and COVID responsible. Now we've got to connect and we've got to ignite something. So we've identified our audience. We've generated some enthusiasm. We've networked with the people that we feel like have an affinity for what we believe in. We've implemented this programming. Now you create a series of relationships that lead to trust. And when people trust you, that means that they believe that you also have their best interest at heart and that the things that matter to you matter to them. Because I can guarantee you, if people don't feel like you care and you have their best interest at heart, they're not going to trust you. Organizations are relational. Every single thing that you do is relational. And you know why? People will come to your SGA program because you showed up at their Active Minds program. You know what? They supported me. I'm going to go support them. The support is reciprocal. Relationships are reciprocal. I'm sure a lot of you, 93 of you, you don't have friends that are friendships that are one-sided. If you do, that may be problematic. That's a different session. But reciprocation is important. You go to their program, they come to your program. You don't go to their program, then maybe they're not coming to yours, but you've got to build that affinity. And then we're going to empower one another. We've ignited something that's bigger than us, right? Whether I'm Greek, no matter what I'm a part of, I've ignited something that's bigger than myself. And now I'm watching the fruits of my labor. So I've identified, I've generated, I've networked, I've implemented, I've trusted, and now it's going to empower me to do what? You guessed it. We are communicating, we're connecting, and we're cultivating. There's got to be a culture shift. There's got to be a culture shift. You are responsible for this culture shift. And I'm talking impact. I'm not talking about impressing people. I'm talking about impact. What are we doing in our organizations? And does it stick? Does it matter? 10 years from now, does it matter? The next generation, you've graduated and you've gone on. Are the fruits of your labor evident? Because if we're just doing TikToks because it's cool and we're just meeting to be meeting because we're meeting because the advisor told us to, we are not doing our ultimate best to create this culture shift. It's on you. I told you, it's not on the advisor, it's on you. So we have communicated, we've connected to some folks, and now we're going to create this culture shift. And what happens in this culture shift? It's going to make sure that everything that we have to offer matters. Programming just to check a box. Oh, well, we have this forum every year because we have it. Nobody shows up. We've not taken the opportunity to assess it, to see why people show up. We've not taken the opportunity to see, does this really matter? We've not surveyed our student body to ask them if they even care. We are just checking a box. And you're wasting your time and probably everyone else's. What's connecting? What's sticking? After we create this culture shift to where people see what matters, now we have to be accountable. You know how they say you don't know what you don't know? Well, now that you know, we've got to act. What does act mean? I'm so glad y'all asked me that. We've got to be accountable. We've got to be consistent. We've got to be teachable. Listen, I imagine that you're college students, so I'm imagining the age range here is anywhere from probably 18, 20 to 21. And I know that you have arrived, and I know that you have every answer, and I know that you've programmed for the last 6 years or 7 years, and I know that you know. But please, 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 I graduated high school in 2000, so if that gives you any indication of how old I might be. There's things that I'm learning even today, even this day. Even think about COVID. COVID has completely turned a lot of things up a notch for all of us, right? And so asking yourself, what does that look like? What is this culture shift? So what are we cultivating, even in COVID? Because it can be done. But and let me tell you this, if we've shifted the culture prior to COVID, maintaining the culture in COVID is not going to be hard. There's a saying that talks about reinventing the wheel. A lot of times we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to change the tire. right? A lot of things are already laid out for you. As organizational leaders, you've laid out a lot of things for your teams and for your exec board and in tandem with your advisor. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just changing the way we do that. But in order to do that, we've got to, again, be accountable, consistent, and teachable. We don't know it all, y'all. We don't. Even if you've been in the organization since you came on as a freshman, there are still things that we have to learn. There is value in the freshman experience of your organizations, and there is value in the upper level, the seniors, the super seniors. They've got some answers, and we've got to rely on one another. I'm closing. Listen, think about this: compass versus a GPS. I want you to think about something in the spirit of COVID. What is the purpose of a GPS, right? So you're going somewhere you've not been before. You put it in your GPS. I don't even think y'all probably have not seen maps. I remember we used to travel when I was a kid with my dad, and he had this huge Randy McNally book, and it was a map, and it had like all these roads and all this. And I imagine if any of you saw that today, you'd think it was super duper foreign. I think it is too. And again, I'm a little older than you, but again, I think it's foreign too. But with the GPS, the thing that's super important to know is that this particular navigation device, one, it works its best on familiar roads, right? So dirt roads, not so much. This GPS is going to do its thing. The thing to keep in mind about a compass is that it doesn't necessarily need a road to provide direction because it works by the Earth's gravitational pull. I promise this is going to make sense. So the Earth's gravitational pull with this compass, right? So GPS is a navigating system that needs essentially roads. It needs some direction to tell you where it goes. Even on this, when you're using a GPS, you ask Siri, "Hey Siri, can you tell me how to get?" If I put in the GPS right now, or I got in my Maps app, and I say, "Siri, tell me how to get to University of Memphis." Siri's going to take me straight to Memphis. Even if I get there and on my way there, say for instance, there's some traffic and I want to reroute, Siri is going to reroute me, right? This compass is not going to reroute me, right? Because this compass is based on the Earth's gravitational pull. What in the world, Tanya, does a compass and a GPS have to do with anything related to communicating, connecting, and cultivating? You ask, and I'm going to tell you. Because with this compass, y'all, we've got a true north. What is your true north? It's your internal compass. It's that thing that guides you successfully through life. It's that thing that kind of tugs at you and tells you where you need to go and what you need to do. I've not been through a pandemic before. Sure, none of you have. Even in true north, even in COVID land, there is still an expectation for you to perform. It is still an expectation for you to be productive and prosperous in your organizations. COVID can't stop the show. If we depend on our true north, this compass, because that GPS has rerouted us a million times. You thought you were coming back on campus on one day. It's now been determined that you're not. We now need masks. I've got mine somewhere. I've got my mask. I walked from upstairs. I've got my mask. Listen, you've got to reroute, but you may not always have a GPS. This is unfamiliar territory. I told you that GPS doesn't necessarily work in uncharted territory, places that you have not been, that dirt road. COVID-19 has given you a dirt road. What is your true north? And in determining your true north, we've got to connect the dots. Communicate, connect, cultivate. How do we talk like a team? We've got to communicate like a team. We've got to connect like a team. And then we can cultivate something that's bigger than us, like a team, even in a pandemic. There are some low-hanging fruit. There are some things that y'all can do right now. This presentation probably sounds like, we've got a lot to get going. There are some things that y'all can do today. You don't have to wait. There's some stuff that we can do right now. That doesn't take 6 weeks. You don't need necessarily, you can mention the idea to your advisor and your exec board team, but you don't need any approval, anybody to sign off. There are some things that you could do right now to make sure that you, your exec board, and everybody that surrounds you has this idea and this understanding of what it means to talk like a team. Listen, that's my time essentially, but I want to go back to this. Communicate, connect, cultivate. Teamwork is important. No organization can do anything alone. Would y'all agree with that? It's not just on, and the thing that bothers me so much sometimes, and I used to fuss, but nonetheless, it's not just on one person. I said a few minutes ago, we're all busy. I've got 1,000,001 things to do, literally. I've got 2 jobs. I work, on average, I work 7 days a week. If I had come before you today to talk about cultivating and talking like a team, and I was all over the place and fumbling and stuff is falling, and y'all would have been like, but it was important to me. And when I asked you in the very beginning what your values were, what you value is going to show up in your actions. What does that mean? If you say you value your organization, you're not going to ditch an exec board meeting for your significant other. You haven't, it's Friday, y'all, and Kaylin Bradford has called an exec board meeting, and you really don't want to go. You really rather go eat crab legs and hang out. Somebody tell me what the hangout is on campus? What's a good hanging? What'd you say?
The UC.
The UC. So Kaylin Bradford has called an exec board meeting at 3 o'clock on a Friday. Brutal, right? And Boo really wants to go, or the bridge. Okay, I see the bridge. So Kaylin Bradford's called this 3 o'clock exec board meeting. You'd really rather go to the bridge or the UC with Boo. You haven't seen him or her all week, and you really need that time, and they're complaining. And then you see on Snapchat that there's a party later, and you really want to go, but you want to know what's going to guide you back to that exec board meeting? The fact that you value the organization. And leadership is not easy, y'all. Leadership is hard. Some days it's fun. Some days people get on your nerves and you want to roll your eyes. I know, trust me. I feel like I've been in leadership for probably 10, 15 years, and it never gets easier, but you get better. And I assure you, if you can commit to connecting the dots, to communicating, connecting, and cultivating, I guarantee you your organization will soar even in a pandemic. If you let it, you've got to let it, and you've got to want to. I hope it made sense. Comments, questions, concerns. I know that's my time, but comments, questions, concerns. You hated it. It didn't make sense at all. You loved it, and you tell Kaylin you want me to come back. Whatever the case, I hope that something that I've said today kind of sticks. You can always reach out to me. Kaylin knows how to get in contact with me. You can always hit me in the chat. Kaylin, if anything pops up in the chat, let me know. Again, I hope that you guys have an awesome rest of the day, and make sure that you take something away. When people are trying to pour into you, you know, everything may not resonate, but if there's one thing that you can take and it can improve who you are as a leader, then I say hang on to it, cling to it for dear life, because you're not going to always be motivated, but you should always be reminded of what matters. That's my time.
All right. Ms. Matheney, thank you again. We appreciate you for your wonderful words of wisdom to help us talk like a team. Guys, we're going to go straight into breakout. So if you can, please use the links that were emailed out to you guys and head to your breakout. Thank you.